Welcome everybody to today's webinar on alternate markets, your gateway, sort of alternate markets unlocked, and using Flanders as your gateway to the EU. My name is Laurie Goodall. My name is Laurie Goodall. I'm the Global Membership Account Manager and one of the International Trade and Customs Advisors here at the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. We are an accredited chamber for Berkshire, Bucks, Oxford, Swindon and Heathrow. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the webinar by using our Q&A facility. We'll be going through the questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded and we will distribute to those who registered following this. So on to today's exciting webinar topic. With worldwide difficulties, especially those in the USA, we thought this would be a great idea to put on a webinar to focus on alternative markets to help our businesses look at different strategies. I believe it's, a lot of people have obviously had concerns about a lot of their products moving to the West into the US markets. And we thought this was a great time to focus on other markets and specifically look at products moving back into the EU. With that, we are really happy to welcome our friends from Flanders Investment, Flanders Investment and Trade is the regional development agency for the northern region of Belgium. The local team in London have been working with us on different events over the past few years, helping companies explore businesses opportunities in Flanders, supporting their expansion into the heart of Europe. With that, I'm really, really happy to pass you over to Astrid from the Flanders team, who will introduce the rest of the speakers for this fabulous webinar. Over to you, Astrid.
Thank you very much, Laurie, and thanks to the Chamber for doing this webinar with us. We are definitely an alternative market that could be explored and used to access Europe, hence our interest to work with the Chamber. We recognize that the area is huge potential, has loads of businesses who are doing business in Europe, and it would be good to highlight a few points, help you shape your ideas for the future on how to organize your logistics. Can I have the next slide, please? Right, so as Laurie said, we're a regional development agency. We work for the northern part of Belgium, and the northern part of Belgium comprises a couple of ports. We've got the port of Antwerp and Bruges, for whom Justin is speaking today, but we've also got the port of Ghent. We've got a small port of Ostend, focusing on renewables and so on. So plenty of opportunity, plenty of entryways into Europe, and then further linked to the rest of Europe via railroad and so on. So our organization helps Flemish companies exporting to across the world through our local offices, and we've got about 80 of those. One of those is in London, so we've got a team here. And then secondly, we also support UK-based companies with their EU expansion, and that goes from finding a location to actually helping them with a question around exporting and doing those first, exploring those first questions to shape their ideas. So that's what we're hoping to do today. Can I have the next slide, please? So our London office team, we've got 3 people actually. Oriane, who's in the call today. Then there's also our colleague Tayana Derek-Suarez, who's the project manager, and then myself, who's running the team. We've also got people in Edinburgh in Scotland and some people in Ireland. So we're a strong team. We are very responsive and extremely helpful. Can I have the next slide? But the most important thing actually today is not me, not ourselves, is actually there's people who are going to speak today. And the first one is Sultan Demir. She's based in our head office in Brussels, and she's our logistics expert. This next person we're going to talk to is Faye Hamann. She's the operations director for Sample Logistics, and Faye has actually, with our help, set up a local operation in the port of Antwerp. So I'm very excited that she can be here today, because her experience will give you a unique insight into what her journey was, how she's experiencing it now, how she has worked with us as an organization, how we can be helpful to you, and what her opportunities are in Europe and in Flanders specific. And then finally, we've got Justin Atkin, who's the UK and Ireland port representative for the Port of Antwerp-Bruges. Justin manages the port's business in the UK. He will be able to give you an insight in the strengths of the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, in how they can help you, how you can access the rest of Europe through the port. And the important thing today is actually that these people are, you know, they have all the experience. You can ask them all the questions. That's very important. And that they can be reached afterwards as well, besides my team. So I think we will start with the first speaker. Thank you very much.
Yes, hello everyone. I am Sultan Demir. Thank you for joining today's session on Flanders as your gateway to Europe. In this session, we will explore how companies of all sizes can leverage Flanders as a logistics hub to streamline their supply chains in Europe. Today, I'm not just going to talk about infrastructure or transport routes, but I'm here to talk about partnerships. And one of the most important partnerships is the one between the region of Flanders and the UK. Flanders and the UK are two regions with centuries of strong commercial ties. And today, this connection is more relevant than ever before, especially with all the disruptions happening right now, like Trump's tariffs, geopolitical instability. It feels like disruptions have become almost the new normal in logistics. And that's exactly where the region of Flanders comes into play. So in the next 10-12 minutes, I will give you a snapshot of what makes Flanders stand out, how it's helping businesses in getting their products where it needs to be, and how it continues to be a trusted gateway for logistics in Europe. Let's start with location, because in logistics, it is everything. You have the classic saying in the industry that logistics is all about location, location, and location. While it still holds true today, and the region of Flanders perfectly exemplifies this principle. When you look at the map, it is easy to see why Flanders is such a powerful logistics base. It is located right in the middle of Europe's busiest trade routes and surrounded by one of the highest concentration of people, money, and businesses. So this makes it an ideal spot for European distribution, cross-border shipping, and e-commerce activities, because being so close to millions of consumers means lower transportation costs, shorter delivery times, and also more flexibility for businesses. Of course, location is just one piece of the puzzle. When you look at the map on the next slide, you can see what really sets Flanders apart is how well it's connected to the world. At the core of the logistics network lie 4 global gateways. We have 3 international seaports and 1 major airport, all linked to a huge hinterland by a multimodal infrastructure. So whether you choose road, rail, air, sea, or inland transportation, you can be sure of a highly efficient distribution solution. Major consumer and business markets in and around cities like Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, London, and even parts of northern Italy can be reached within 1 single day. In fact, same-day delivery across much of Western Europe is the norm. Another important element is that Flanders plays a critical role in the trans-European transport networks, which includes the most important transport corridors linking major European cities, ports, logistics hub. And the region of Flanders is very critical within the corridors of the North Sea Baltic, the North Sea Mediterranean, and the Rhine Alpine corridors. Next slide, please. On the next slide, you see the number of European distribution centers established in the region. So this is no surprise if you take into account the logistics strategic assets of Flanders. Many companies have found their way to Flanders because of the logistics know-how. These distribution centers don't just move boxes, they pick, pack, and prepare products for delivery across Europe. They also offer value-added services and logistics like kitting, repackaging, light assembly, and even compliance checks, so products are market ready before it ships out. So on this, this map clearly illustrates the logistics know-how of Flanders in European distribution. By the high number of centers here, it's actually the highest density in all of Europe. So this is a clear sign that global businesses trust the region to handle complex logistics operations efficiently. On the next slide, you see a selection of European distribution centers. There are too many to put on one slide, but this slide clearly illustrates the strategic importance of Flanders in logistics. Here you not only see the European distribution centers, but also other players in the supply chain that are important for the logistics assets in Flanders. So how do you get started with logistics in Flanders? Starting logistics operations comes with many strategic elements to consider. Depending on your company's scale, industry, and needs, here are 5 scenarios to help you on your way. So you can start very small by opening a representation office to have a physical footprint, to explore logistics feasibility and do some market research. Once you have a better understanding of the market, you can establish a local storage facility to support your operations. The next step would be to add value-added logistics and services to better meet customer demands and to streamline operational efficiency. Once your supply chain is up and running, you can scale up to a European distribution center and regional warehouse to support growing demands and to ensure faster delivery across a wider area. And the ultimate step would be a fully fledged European hub, centralizing both logistics operations and key corporate functions like marketing, customer service, and finance. The next question that you need to ask yourself is, how will your logistics setup look like? On the next slide, you see 3 main approaches to consider. You can either establish your own warehouse, partner with a local 3PL provider, or you can use a hybrid model that combines both. So the most common and most accessible option for businesses new to the European market is to partner with a local 3PL provider. These providers offer a full range of logistics services, and this model is ideal for small and medium-sized enterprises, for e-commerce brands, and also for companies that are new to the EU market. So by outsourcing their logistics, they avoid the complexities of establishing an own warehouse and without major capital investments. On the other hand, running your own warehouse gives you full control over logistics, but requires also higher capital investments and expertise. And a third option would be to combine both. You start with a 3PL provider, and then you can take logistics in-house as your business grows. Next slide, please. So for businesses with high volumes, setting up an own distribution center warehouse could be the way to go. This involves either purchasing or leasing warehouse space, managing your own logistics staff, and contracting your own transportation. And Flanders offers a wide range of warehouse solutions at a competitive price. Rental costs are in prime logistics locations in Flanders are among the lowest compared to neighboring countries, as you can clearly see on this graph showing prime logistics rents per year. But for smaller companies, if you are not ready to invest in your own warehouse, you can partner with one of the many experienced 3PL providers that you see on the next slide. This gives you flexibility to scale up or to scale down and to adapt your supply chain as needed without the burden of fixed assets. They have a deep industry knowledge across multiple sectors, whether it's just in case logistics for the automotive industry, temperature controlled distribution for pharma, compliant handling for chemicals, or the fast pace of e-commerce. Whatever your industry, there is a 3PL in Flanders ready with a logistics solution for you. Of course, they offer logistics services, but besides that, they also offer bonded warehousing solutions, which can really simplify customs for international shipments. With a bonded warehouse, you can store imported goods without paying customs duties right away. So you only pay when it's clear where the goods are headed, meaning whether they're being sold in Belgium, shipped to another European country, or re-exported outside the EU. So this is a great way of to make cross-border trade smoother, both within the EU and beyond. And on top of their bonded warehousing solutions, they can also act as your fiscal representative and handle your imports using their global VAT number. So this means that you don't have to apply for your own VAT number right away, and that you can benefit from simplified VAT handling. So with the right logistics partner by your side, you can import goods, store them under customs suspension, sell across the EU, and manage VAT obligations, all through one streamlined and simplified setup in Flanders. So this would be a hassle-free and all-in-one solution for non-EU businesses that lets you focus on growing and marketing your business. And a last element that I want to mention, and that it's worth mentioning, is that fiscal representation by 3PL offer comes with a special tax authorization called ET 14000, which lets you defer VAT payments on imports to the periodic VAT return, which help improve cash flow because you don't have to pay upfront VAT on imports. And many established 3PL hold this license in Flanders. So to wrap things up, choosing the right logistics strategy and the right logistics partner is critical for growing your business in Europe. Flanders has several assets, thanks to its prime location, highly connected infrastructure, and flexible business solution. Expanding into Flanders can open doors to new markets and also suppliers. And the best part is that you won't be on your own. We at Flanders Investment and Trade are there to support you, guide you, help you connect with the right local partner, and then help you find the perfect fit for your business. Flanders is not just a gateway or a dot on the map. It's a region that truly supports businesses in moving forward. So I hope this quick overview has given you a clearer picture of how Flanders can fit in your global supply chain strategy. There's, of course, much more to talk about. So on the next slide, you have my contact details. If you have additional questions or need further information, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to support you in your further endeavors in the European market. I thank you very much for your interest and for listening. I think we can.
I think Astrid, I think we're going to move over to Justin next, aren't we? Thank you, Sultan. I thought that was brilliant. Like I say, well, hopefully we can cover off some of the bits and pieces at the end.
Okay, do I have the presenter mode?
I think so. You can start.
That's now. Okay, I'm not seeing the presentation up on the screen.
You will need to share it, or I can do the presentation for you. I can change the slides if you wish.
Okay, so I just share? What
Yes,
do I need?
to share your presentation from your computer, or I can do it and you can tell me when to change the.
Well, no, I sent the presentation, submitted the presentation.
Perfect, then I will just share it.
Okay.
It's right on the screen right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed for the invitation to join the webinar. It's good to be working with the Chamber of Commerce and also once again with our friends and colleagues at Flanders Investment and Trade, who we work very closely with. So my name is Justin Atkin. As you can tell, I'm not Dutch. I'm English. I'm based here in the UK, and I'm the representative for the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, covering the UK and Ireland. In the early part of the presentation, I'd just like to give a little bit of information about the port, and then I'll move on to talk about the work that we've been doing in terms of creating sustainable supply chains. So who are we? If you could pass on to the next slide, please. Okay, so we are a single port, but we have two platforms or two sites, both in beautiful Flemish cities. The Port of Antwerp is located around 80 kilometers inland, in the traditional port city of Antwerp. The slides are moving quicker than I'm speaking, actually. The other platform is on the coast at the port of Zeebrugge. Next slide, please. Okay, we're quite unique at both of these ports. We have an ecosystem of cargo handling, logistics, service provision, and also industry. In the port of Zeebrugge, we're specializing particularly in container traffic and what we call the cold chain, so temperature controlled cargo such as, for example, fruit and vegetables, but also pharmaceuticals. We have an extremely busy ro-ro program, short sea ro-ro program from Zeebrugge into Ireland and into the UK, and we also have a large LNG gas import terminal, importing LNG from predominantly from countries like Qatar. In Antwerp, as I say, mentioned, we're an inland port, also a very large container port, also working with the cold chain, but we're also specializing in Antwerp in break bulk cargo such as steel and project cargo lifts. And we're actually the second largest chemical hub in the world, behind the Port of Houston. Next slide, please. So just a few statistics. I won't read through all of them. So we're the second largest port in Europe. However, we do specialize and are first in certain areas. So, for example, in containers, actually, after the first quarter of 2025, we're now the largest container port in Europe, now leading for the first time Rotterdam, our rivals. We're also the world's largest car handling facility in Zeebrugge, port in Zeebrugge, where we're handling more than 3 million new cars each year. I also already referred to our importance in chemistry. So the largest chemistry hub in Europe, second largest in the world. Perhaps a little less known about us, we have a cruise port in the port of Zeebrugge, handling around 1 million passengers a year. And across a typical year, so from 2024, we handled more than 20,000 seagoing ships. Next slide, please. So 2024, 278 million tons. You can see the pie chart clearly concludes that our largest part of our business, more than half, in fact, is in containers. And the second largest part of our business is in liquid bulk, particularly around the chemical industry. The remaining range of the slide is made up of ferry services, ro-ro services at 20 million tons, and then break bulk and dry bulk cargoes. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. Thank you. So those statistics just give a bit of context as to the size of the port and the types of cargoes, but location is really important. And you can see from the graphic at this moment in time that almost all of the major European markets can be served from the ports of Antwerp and Zeebrugge within a 48-hour period. And then also much wider markets within 3 days from the ports. Next slide, please. And I think what's really important is the multimodal offering. So as well as being a seaport, we're also offering extensive inland navigation through a very large barge network. Of course, we have an extensive road connectivity to both of the ports, short sea, and I think the other area that we've really worked on is our wider rail network. So more than 60% of the European consumer market can be reached within 500 kilometers or less. Next slide, please. We could go to the next slide when you have a second, please. Okay, so with specific reference to the UK market, this slide shows our short sea connections from Antwerp and from Zeebrugge, feeding both into the UK and Ireland. So you can see that we are covering the major ports in the north, into the south, also into the west coast and Scotland as well. And in the table, you can actually see who the container or the lines, the ferry services and the container lines that are servicing each of the ports. Next slide, please. With specific reference to perishables, it's not always the case that the port or the country that you're shipping into, or the port that you're shipping into, is always the closest. So, for example, if you look on the table below, you can actually reach the region of Venlo in the Netherlands significantly quicker from our ports in Antwerp and in Zeebrugge than you can even from the Dutch port of Rotterdam. So we're actually 40 kilometers closer to Venlo than is the case with Rotterdam. The same is said of the German port, or the German region of Duisburg, where we're somewhere like 40 kilometers closer to Duisburg than Rotterdam, and even closer than Hamburg at 378 kilometers. The next slide, please. Just to give you, because I'm conscious that we just shown you in these two slides some of our shipping routes and our transport routes. And we actually subscribe to a program called Route Scanner. It's free and available for you to use. And you can go into the Route Scanner app, And through that app, you can actually plan your supply chain from your loading point, for example, in the United Kingdom, to your discharge point somewhere in the European market. So you can actually plot the route that is the quickest. It will tell you who the transport providers are and whether that is by road, by train, by barge, what the options are. And it will also calculate your CO2 footprint. So that is through Route Scanner, and we can make that app available after the webinar. Next slide, please. A little bit of what we also offer at the port. So that's very much about value added services. So on both the ports in Zeebrugge and in Antwerp, we have members of our port community that are specializing in added value services, anything from storage through transportations, custom control, but also very specific. So, for example, from the slide that you can see, we're even providing packaging and labeling, in this case for fruit juice, which is imported in bulk, and then we're packaging it on the port, labeling it, and distributing it from the port. So very specific added value services available on both of the ports. Next slide, please. A little bit of an advert. At our port in Zeebrugge, where currently it's gone to market in the last couple of weeks. So we actually have launched an area of the port shown in red there on the graphic, which we're calling the Zeebrugge Maritime Logistics Zone. As the slide says there, you can benefit from a prime location, and also the connectivity that we have between Zeebrugge and the United Kingdom. So we're inviting applications from companies that are interested in establishing maritime logistics operations on the European mainland. So this is a site where you can take an area, a plot, and you can develop a maritime logistics business within the port of Zeebrugge, and we can help you with that. And I'm sure our friends from Flanders Investment and Trade can also offer some support in terms of setting up a business in Flanders. Next slide, please. And then finally, just a little bit about the work that we have been doing on sustainability, and in particular on green shipping corridors. Next slide, please. So the building blocks of creating a green shipping corridor, there are 7 items listed, but I think for me, the most important is to have, clearly there needs to be a customer demand to move products from one point to another point in as greener and cleaner and sustainable way as possible. You need to have cross-value collaboration in the supply chain. So not just in shipping, but connections into rail or into barge, or cleaner ways of moving via road. And also there needs to be a viable fuel pathway. So moving away from fossil fuels and looking at new, greener, cleaner methods of fueling. Next slide, please. And then here's an example of where we've created our first green shipping corridor from Canada through the port of Antwerp-Bruges and ultimately into the port of Gothenburg in Sweden, using ammonia and using methanol as the methods of the ships that are carrying the cargoes between Montreal and Antwerp, and then from Antwerp into Gothenburg. And next slide, please. And I think that concludes my my presentation. I thought there was one more goodbye slide, but if not, then I think that is the end of my presentation. I'd like to thank everyone who's dialed in to listen, or if you're watching this on recording later, please do reach out if you have any questions about the presentation, and in particular regarding our route scanner, and also about the Maritime Logistics Zone. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you very much. I think it's Faye's turn now.
Yeah.
Good morning,
Thank you,
Faye.
Astrid. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I don't have any slides, so I'll just talk you through just our experience working with the Flanders team and just the motivation for us actually setting up an entity in Belgium. So just a bit of intro to our company. We are Sample Logistics. We work very closely with ship owners, managers, laboratories. In fact, our friend Justin has actually mentioned some of the entities that we work very closely with in terms of the actual fuel testing and lubricant testing program. So part of what we actually do is we consult to the ship owners and the ship managers on how to actually go about their fuel testing programs from a logistics point of view. And obviously, on the back of that, we actually supply some of the consumables that are actually used for the fuel testing and lubricant testing. So that's where our relationship with Belgium and the Flanders team actually started. We were looking at opening up a distribution center in Europe. And I think just like anybody would actually do, we explored options in Europe, including the Netherlands, Germany. And I think for us, having settled on Belgium was mainly based on the proactive responses we got from the Flanders team. So we sent out a list of criteria, a list of questions that we were actually looking to have answered by the various countries. And like I mentioned, the response and the proactive approach to the questions that we had from the Flanders team certainly, put them above all of what was actually received from the other countries. So we explored that relationship a little bit more and again, started a whole process of due diligence, looking at locations within Belgium. And for us, we actually then settled on a location in Belgium, which actually gave us such accessibility to all of the areas that we were actually working with. So we worked closely with laboratories in Germany, in the Netherlands, but the accessibility that we found and the infrastructure within Belgium was so much better in terms of actually serving and servicing our clients. So the reason that we actually chose Belgium essentially was because of the information, and as I said, working together with the Flanders team to answer the questions we had. How do we do it? Where's the best location? And I think in all of the cases, if they weren't able to actually immediately help us, they were able to put us in touch with people who were able to help us. So their network of companies to assist us setting up, whether we were looking for a location, whether we were having to register a company there, whether we needed finance, questions on finance, setting all of that up. We were able to actually work with the team to establish those contacts. And actually, they introduced us personally to all of those people who then again became part of the group that helped us set up our entity in Belgium. I think the most important thing for us is that once we'd actually established the setup in Belgium, it opened up so many opportunities for us. We were not only working closer with our clients, but we could have one-to-one meetings, which I'm sure you'll understand that given Zoom, given Teams, all of those platforms to actually communicate with people, having to actually speak with someone far outweighs all of that. You're able to actually build a much closer relationship. And this is certainly what we found. So we were able to actually have on-site meetings. We were able to do site visitations of the facilities that we had in in Belgium. And of course, all of this just strengthened the relationships with the clients. But at the same time, it actually allowed us to tap into opportunities that we didn't know about. We were able to actually work with clients in a way that they discussed other issues. And so that gave us opportunities to actually expand the relationship, but also to expand our business. So that in itself was a big win for us. And we only realized that once we actually set up in Belgium and once we started just working on strengthening the relationships. The main reason that, that we first thought about Europe, and I think if I just mention one word, you will all agree and you'll all know what I mean. It's encapsulated in the word Brexit. And that was our key motivation when we left. All of the issues we face in terms of distribution from the UK was a big issue, because now we were faced with what we would actually call an international trade. And a lot of what we actually did was distributed from the UK, but then became such a problem with customs and things being delayed. And it really was a no-brainer that it was time for us to actually set something up in Belgium. So all of that contributed to the reason that we made that decision. But I think lastly from me, what I'd like to actually leave with people considering Belgium is to consider the support you actually have from a team like Flanders. As I said, if they don't necessarily know the answers, they know someone who has the answer, and they're able to actually put you in touch with people that can help you and set things up and who do know the answers. Secondly, I think a lot of what Sultan actually mentioned in her presentation are all the ticks and the reasons why we actually settled for Belgium: the infrastructure, the accessibility, all of that were key factors for our decision in actually choosing Belgium. And then I think, just lastly, from our point of view, the advantage now that we have of actually tapping into not only our existing clients to expand the business, but also new clients. So that has actually given us the opportunity to branch out within Europe, not only in suppliers, in actually looking for suppliers in Europe. That has actually been key for us, that a lot of our suppliers were either based in the UK or abroad. But I think having established something in Belgium actually gave us that opportunity to explore European suppliers. We were able to get things done so much quicker. In fact, even in the distribution center, there, a lot of the orders that come in are sometimes last-minute orders when ships are actually in a port and they need something. We're able to actually expedite that order within the day. And of course, the fact that the proximity of where we're actually based is so accessible to places like Rotterdam, like Amsterdam, that it has actually given us that ability to maintain that service that we offer to ship owners and laboratories alike. So, I think to sum it all up, I think that the Flanders team is actually well equipped in terms of their network of actually helping you set up. Nothing was too small, nothing was too silly to ask. The questions that we had on how to do this and how we go about certain things, all of those were actually met within the Flanders team or someone within the Flanders team or a recommendation from the Flanders team. So all in all, as I say, we're happy. We settled in Belgium. We're growing. And yeah, we look forward to expanding in other areas within Europe, which again, as I say, we had not actually thought about that before or prior to actually setting up in Belgium, but certainly we have those opportunities now. And, I welcome any questions. Again, as I say, any questions that people are sort of thinking about setting up or how to go about. we may not have all the answers, but we can certainly share with you how we did it, and also the support that we had within the Flanders team. So thank you for that opportunity, and thank you, Astrid, and your team for always being accessible, and for helping and assisting us, and particularly as we look forward to the future. We look forward to growing that relationship, and yeah, you'll hear from us a lot more in the future.
Thank you, Faye. Well, we look forward to working with you and hearing more of you. So I think we're going over to questions, and maybe while we wait for some of those to come in, I think I can say that sort of the general conclusion is that Flanders is definitely one accessible from the UK. It's a sort of logical choice, but you have to see Flanders as a platform to access the rest of Europe, and through the network, through the connections and all these, the ports, and then what Sultan has mentioned, Faye's story indicates that there are all the elements you need to establish a successful business, and to think beyond your core business, that it may grow in different directions. You may access different suppliers, etc. So thank you very much, panelists. I can't see any questions coming in.
No, I can answer a couple of questions. I thought that webinar, I thought all the panelists were fantastic, and I say it refreshed me on how much of a logistical presence Flanders really does have. A couple of questions from me, really. Across to the group, probably more Justin. Thames Valley is a large, it's quite a large region in the south. Like I said, we cover quite a lot of ground, and we cover quite a variety of industries. Are we seeing, obviously with the economy changing and the complexities that are happening at the moment, are we seeing specific industries thriving more at the moment, or are there specific industries you would say were benefiting and doing, performing higher, and equally are there industries that we should be focusing on that are slightly weaker, that we should be trying to looking at improving?
A lot of the cargo flows that move through our ports are in containers, and we don't actually know what's inside those containers, so we just count container numbers. I would guess that from experience of what we're seeing in terms of Belgian industry, something certainly for the future is around circular economy.
Right.
At our port in Antwerp, we've actually we've designated an 80-hectare site specifically for the development of circular economy businesses. Arguably we could fill that site tomorrow with containers, but we decided to designate it as a circular economy incubator, if you like. And on that site, we've seen now, I think we have 5 companies that have now sort of signed up to long-term tenancies, and the criteria is quite simple. First and foremost, you've got to work in the circular economy, and secondly, you have to either have a feedstock or generate an output that will move through the port by sea, because clearly that's where our interest is, the cargo passing across the quayside. So it could be anything from the repurposing of plastic polymers to the complete repurposing of tires. For example, we have one company that is, I believe, not accurate here on the data, but I believe around 90% of a tire is now put back into a secondary life. Only 3% actually going into waste. We're looking at really, what's going to happen, for example, to batteries from cars and trucks. How are they going? They'll have a limited shelf life, so how will they be repurposed and again put back into the supply chain? So that's something that we've been focusing on very specifically, is circular economy, probably we're seeing a decline in what I would say, and this won't be a surprise, in more traditional things. So, for example, anything to do with fossil fuels is declining. And you only have to look at UK policy on fossil. Well, it depends, of course, which party could get in the future, but certainly on the current party, the policy is certainly geared away from fossil fuels to renewables. So you would expect an increase in big project cargo stuff around, for example, offshore wind, floating offshore wind. Yesterday's announcement, particularly around nuclear. So that would lead to, movement of very big pieces, and also construction materials. Added to that, in the UK, the appetite for the existing government, if they can deliver on house building, 1.5 million new homes in the lifespan of the Parliament. In the United Kingdom, we do not have enough raw materials to deliver that. So you could imagine construction materials. For example, we make a lot in Belgium and in the Netherlands, bricks. So I think there's quite a lot of inquiry for the shipment of bricks and other sort of construction materials. So they would be the sort of things that we are seeing. But again, new fuel types. So, opportunities around hydrogen and ammonia could also be of interest as well.
Fabulous. No, I thought that was really really interesting. That conscious of time, because obviously we're getting towards the hour mark. Faye, any last minute tips? Because you're the person that sort of had the case study, and new businesses. We often get, obviously we're focusing on businesses in the UK and trying to get the best out of streamlining processes within the UK, but obviously we are seeing it, obviously the Brexit effect, and obviously some businesses that are coming late to the party that want to set up in the EU. Any sort of additional tips you've kind of got to our businesses?
Yeah, I think the biggest tip I would actually give anybody for that matter, is to actually put a list of your criteria down, and then to actually present that to the Flanders team. That's exactly what we did. And out of that, obviously, there were key points that we then concentrate, typically on location. Things like human resources, setting up a bank account. Some of them are just things you take for granted. But what we did was we put those list of things that we would need to actually have in place. So once you've got your list in place, I think fire away to the Flanders team, and they actually elaborate on that. And anything that comes out of that obviously becomes an additional point, and it just gives them the opportunity, or gives you the opportunity, to actually dig deeper into the how-to of what you're trying to actually do. And I'm available. I think Astrid will make my details also available. I'm quite happy to tell, to speak to people about the detail, because at the end of the day, everything seems high level. The idea is a good idea, but the getting down to actually doing it, the detail, the devil is in the detail, how to, and I'm happy to actually share the detail of how we did it, and even some of the issues that we had to overcome. I'm available. I'm happy to speak to anyone through those issues or questions. And as I say, the Flanders team have such a good and wide network that they can actually call on resources as well to assist.
Super. Excellent. No, thank you for that. Like I say, there's some excellent knowledge. I mean, Sultan, I thought some of the sort of information on the warehouses and some of the additional information on, was it ET 14,000 and fiscal reputation, that would definitely be something that we want to look at and advise businesses, in the future for sure. I don't think there's any more questions, but like I say, this webinar is being recorded, so we will, it'll be used at a later date, I'm sure, as a reference tool. Malin, you just want to go to the next slide so we can just talk about some of the next events? Just from the Thames Valley point of view, from the chamber, the next up and coming events, we've got a customs procedures and documentation course on the 24th of June, and our next webinar, do not miss it, the dreaded conversation about VAT. We've got some experts in to talk about VAT and how it's handled overseas, specifically in the EU. I think that's it from me, and again, thanks to the panel for an excellent session. And like I say, I'm sure a lot will come out of it. I certainly learned a lot from today as well. So thank you, guys.
Okay, our pleasure. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Brilliant. All
Thanks,
right.
Ashley.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Laurie. Bye-bye.